Welcome back to a fresh week of furniture refinishing. I was lucky enough to score this vintage, possibly antique, Queen Anne style sideboard piece. I was able to grab it for a pretty good price, and I think there's some pretty obvious reasons why. And probably one of the more obvious things about this piece is it's painted. And it's painted pretty poorly. There are so many drips and paint globs, chips, brush strokes. It's got all of it. This poor paint job is not only visibly a problem, it's also an issue when it comes to functionality. A lot of these drawers are actually sticking right now, and it's mostly because of the really thick layers of paint and gloppy finish that has been put on this piece. I think once I'm able to remove all of this excess finish, the drawers will come out a lot more easily. That's not the only issue that I'm having with this. It's also unfortunately missing one of the handles, as you can see. These original brass handles are absolutely gorgeous. They are beautiful, and they're really substantial too. Sometimes when you get into these antique style handles, they can be delicate, a little flimsy just with the years of use, but these ones have a lot of weight left behind them. I absolutely want to keep them, and I think what I'll probably do is move this center handle over to this side and possibly look at putting a knob over here instead of the handle. That way I can keep the remaining ones that I do have. The second issue that I'm coming up with are the keyhole covers. I have two of them. I found them in the drawers. I'm hoping that I'll be able to find the third one back behind the drawers. Perhaps it fell off. If not, I will have to either replace all three or try to find something that matches enough that I'll be able to keep at least one, if not both of them. But anyway, I am more than excited to jump into this piece. I think it's safe to say it's going to look a whole lot better once I get this paint stripped off. I'm excited to see what kind of wood is hiding underneath all of this. I'm not really sure yet. There's no indications that are easily visible. So it's going to be a little bit of a surprise for me too. And I think Chemical Stripper is going to be my best friend for this piece. So let's roll up our sleeves, dive right in, and follow along on the process. Time to really disassemble this and see what I'm working with. Oh, this middle drawer is by far the worst when it comes to sticking. And it is velvet lined, and the velvet's in pretty decent condition. Sometimes I do have to remove these vintage velvets. Oh, look. One of the brass nails. I will be keeping that. But anyway, it's in decent condition, especially for being vintage, so I think I will just try to clean it up, freshen it up, and protect it. It looks like that velvet is only on that center drawer, which is fine. The rest of it has been shellacked, and I will clean it up and probably add a fresh layer of shellac on the inside just to refresh and rehydrate some of the scratched and marred areas. Besides that, these solid wood drawers are in excellent shape, really, truly. This drawer is really stuck, and I'm hoping that it's not locked. Gosh, I'm hoping it's just the paint, because I don't have the key for this piece. I do have some different keys that will probably work for this. No, it's not locked. Okay, good. But getting that out might take some muscle. Oh my goodness. Holy cow. This is really stuck. Oh. I I'm gonna try to run a blade along this edge and see if I can't clean up some of this paint. I don't know if they painted these drawers while they were in place and like pretty much glued it shut. I'm gonna try to get this piece up on its side and see if gravity can't help me wiggle this drawer loose. I can hear there's more stuff in this drawer, and I'm hoping it's the missing hardware. That would be ideal, but I gotta get it open to see. Oh my gosh. I don't wanna break or damage any of this. Wow. More brass nails. That's a good sign. I truly cannot believe how stuck this drawer is. I'm going to turn it around and take this backer board off. I'll probably just clean it up or just replace it all together just because there is paint on it. But my goodness. This drawer is being a challenge. Luckily, I should have pretty easy access once I get this off. Finally. Oh, the missing hardware is here. Oh, that's perfect. I'm so happy. How pretty are these? I still can't get over how ornate and just really beautiful they all are. Whenever I can, I do like to remove these locks just during the cleaning process and staining and all of that. It just really does help to protect them. This looks like it's just held in with a nail. I had to run to the store real quick and get some more chemical stripper because I was almost out. So now I have all of my supplies and I'm ready to get started on this messy process. I went ahead and I taped up all of the hardware holes and those keyholes so that none of my stripper leaks into the inside. And for really detailed areas that I'm gonna have to brush this stripper on, I just like to use a can that I've cut up, something that I can throw away when I'm all done. I do also like to make sure that it's metal so that the corrosive material doesn't eat through it. As always, gloves. Gloves are very necessary when it comes to working with this stuff. And I will also throw in my respirator. And now, armed with the usual tools that I need for this process, my gloves, disposable can, and disposable chip brush, it's time to roll up my sleeves and really get to work. This product does a fantastic job eating through paint and honestly, almost every other finish that I've come across. I don't want to give too much away, but oh my God, was this process a challenge. I did not expect when I picked up this little sideboard that it was going to be such a long and tedious process. Buckle in, sit down, grab your popcorn. I hope you're ready to watch me absolutely suffer. So after doing my 2 rounds of chemical stripper, I'm starting to suspect that the original finish on this piece was actually this white color down here. Now it's more of an off-white. It might have been off-white in the beginning, but it's pretty durable and I can see the outline of the original hardware where it was on this finish. So I am gonna take my lead strips and just test this just to make sure that there's no lead in all of these layers. And it's looking like there's not. It would turn a bright, almost like purpley color if there was. So this is all just a latex or a water-based, and this I'm thinking is probably like some kind of lacquer finish. What I'll probably do is get the rest of the stripper off. I'm still gonna continue with stripper to get the blue and the primer off, but I will take my sander to the rest of it and see how easily this finish will sand off. Unfortunately, it probably will be difficult to sand the legs. I might have to try a different kind of stripper on this original finish. Worst case scenario, I can paint it. I was hoping to be able to stain it, but if the original finish was this off-white color anyway, it was always intended to have a color on it and not be wood. Yesterday, I was able to get everything stripped except for this one side and the back of the piece. While I was stripping, I was able to tell that some of the detailed edges were initially gilded in like a gold wax or something like that. Again, I'm guessing from the manufacturer. This again kind of drives home the fact that this was probably originally this off-white color with the gold details, because that was a pretty common look. I'm just a little shocked and surprised because this is a solid wood piece. From everything that I can tell, all the drawers are solid, the top, the legs, everything about it is solid. And usually if you see a painted or some kind of piece with a finish on it, a lot of times it's not solid. And a lot of times they're not using a nicer, more expensive wood because it's going to get covered up anyway. But I'm hoping that the wood underneath is still going to be really pretty and stand up well. I do have to admit, I wish that the original finish was stripping off like at all. The stripper's not even touching it. The stripper's doing a very good job taking off this paint and then the primer, but it's really not touching that finish that's underneath everything. So I am gonna have to rely heavily on my sander to do so. And I'm just really not looking forward to having to try to sand these details on these legs and along the trim on the top. It's just that much more challenging, and what with that original finish being pretty robust and very well applied, I think it's just going to be a little bit more work than what I was initially thinking. I broke out the big guns and grabbed my wire bristle brush. It's a soft enough bristle that it's not going to scratch the wood, but still abrasive enough that it'll get into those details and remove that paint. I'm really trying every trick that I know up my sleeve. I grabbed the drawers first to sand. That way I could tell what species of wood I was dealing with, and I could also see how easy this original finish might sand off. And I have to tell you, it was stuck. I had to spend a lot of time with my sander. Usually my sander will go through the original finish pretty easily. In this case, it was not doing that. This was the first piece that I sanded in this little sideboard, and I knew I had my work cut out for me after I saw how long it took me to remove the finish just from this one drawer front. However, I did glimpse a little bit of positivity. This is a solid white oak piece of furniture, and it is absolutely beautiful. This grain pattern is lovely, and it's a really durable hardwood. So I'm gonna do my best, buckle in, and prepare myself for a long journey, because I'm gonna strip this piece if it kills me. I worked all morning on stripping down the last side and starting to really sand this piece, and I've got to tell you, it's a chore to get this finish off. I know it might not show up in the video, but I mean, I've been at it for hours. I've tried several different chemicals to try to loosen and get up this original finish. I tried denatured alcohol, mineral spirits, a lacquer thinner, acetone. None of that stuff seemed to really do the trick and loosen up any of this. The thing that is working the best is just sanding. And I'm using an 80 grit sandpaper. I went with the most abrasive. I started with 120 and it just was hardly doing anything. And I'm going through sandpaper pretty quickly. Now, the good news and the whole reason why I'm continuing is this wood grain is beautiful. It is a oak, and like I mentioned before, it's all solid. I mean, you can tell by the edges on the top, on the drawers, on the sides, all of it is solid oak. And because it's solid oak, it can handle that 80 grit sandpaper. I wouldn't choose an 80 grit for something like a pine wood just because it's so soft. It will get the swirls a lot more easily. Doesn't mean the oak still can't get sanding swirls. I'm just trying to be careful while sanding and not gouge into the wood too much. But this is a very hard wood to be working with, so that is a plus. My game plan is to just continue chipping away at it. Luckily, this is not a huge piece of furniture. I mean, it's still a good size, but it's not like a 6 foot long 9 drawer dresser. It's something that's doable. I'm going to sand as much off as I can, and then I might try to go back in again with my heavy duty chemical stripper, especially on the areas with a lot of detail, like the legs, that kind of stuff. And if I need to cover it in plastic wrap so that it can really sit on there for like an hour or so, see if that will loosen it up, I absolutely can. So that's my game plan going forward. We will see how much I can get off. I made a flying trip to my local hardware store and just picked up any other strippers that they had that I had not tried. Like I mentioned, I tried all the solvents that I had in my stash. I didn't have the citrus strip. I went ahead and grabbed it anyway. It's one of the thicker materials, so I knew that I could brush it on and let it sit a little bit longer than I could my other one without it drying out quite so easily. So after letting it sit, I took my brush to it, my steel wool, and really just tried to work as much of that stuff off as possible. And again, I use this with multiple coats. Time for another round. Now that I have this cleaned off, I'm gonna add another really thick coat, let it sit again. This is gonna take a while because I have to do each side separately. All right, everything is all dried out and I'm gonna go back in and do another round of sanding. I think that I got as much of the finish that I'm gonna get off using stripper that I possibly can. There is still quite a bit clinging on, but I'm hoping with my detail sander and my orbital sander, I can smooth out and get the rest of it off. Unfortunately, I will have to resand everything, but that's okay. I was planning on doing it anyway. Typically, when you sand with a really abrasive sandpaper, you want to take it in steps and bring the grit levels back up. So since I started with an 80, I'll go in with a 120 and then finish off with a 220 just to make sure I'm getting all that wood nice and smooth again. And if there were any sanding swirls, that would also help to get those out. Although I really don't think I have any of those. This is such a hard wood that it's pretty difficult to damage it. I am still absolutely gonna have my work cut out for me. There's still a lot of this finish clinging on in the detailed areas. I remembered that I was gifted this carving tool for Christmas and I haven't used it yet. It has all these different bits and it is battery powered and it's got a lot of different attachments that might work well at trying to carve out some of this residual finish. I'm gonna just test it out and see how quickly this might work. We will just have to see. After I had had just about enough of chipping away that old finish, I went ahead and grabbed the old hardware in my hardware pot, filled it with 50% vinegar, 50% water, and set it to boil on the stove for a good 20 minutes or so, enough to loosen up the dirt and grime. The next step is scrubbing. I like to take my gloves, some very, very fine steel wool, and Barkeeper's Friend, and really polish these. Depending on the piece, depending on the look that I'm going for, I will take more or less of the tarnish off. For these particular pieces, I wanted to leave a little bit of that tarnish left behind, especially in the cracks and grooves, in those crevices. It will add dimension, it will add character, and it will showcase that these are vintage pieces of hardware. They're not going to be perfect, but them not being perfect is that look that I'm going for and will give the most character to this piece when it gets put back on. After a light spray of lacquer, these pieces are sealed and ready to go. For this beautiful white oak piece, I am opting to grab a paint wash. I grabbed a tan color and I'm mixing it with a lot of water. This paint's pretty thick, so I used just a little bit of paint and quite a bit of water. There's a number of reasons why I chose this look. I initially was wanting to stain this dark, but I truthfully could not get 100% of that old finish out of those grooves. And what with it being such a light paint color, if I stain over that, the stain is not going to adhere to that paint. And those little white specks are going to stick out like crazy. Where if I use this paint wash technique, not only is the finish a lot lighter and this wood looks more natural, more like it's unsealed white oak self once it's all dried, it will also camouflage all those little white specks that might be left behind, and they will become invisible. You won't even be able to tell that they're there. I really do love this look. I love paint washing to really embrace and showcase more of a natural look. I know the dark wood stains are all the rage right now, but for this particular piece, I think this was the right call, and I'm glad that I made it.
that song you used to sing me? What's that dance we used to do? Is this house quiet or just empty? Do you hear the silence as loud as I You don't say it like you mean it. I don't mean it like I said. Morning left us both treated. It's just been one of those days. I'll have dinner on the table. You can help me for a while. The paper calls for sun tomorrow.
Finally, it's time. Let's add that jewelry back on to the drawers. Before I get to that, I want to clean them all very thoroughly and make sure that I have a clean surface to go back into this piece. Those locks slid home perfectly. I tacked those little nails back in and very carefully and very gently put all of the hardware back on, including all of those little brass nails. I was lucky. I had all of them except for 2. And I had a couple spare from another piece. So I really had almost an entire set of hardware for this sideboard. And that's it with that drawer sliding on home. This piece is finished. Let's take a look back, rewind time, and remind ourselves what we started with. This was a very heavily painted, we'll say to be nice, piece of furniture. This sideboard was completely not functional. There were multiple drawers that were sticking, one that just could not be pulled out altogether, and it just needed a little bit of TLC and love. I do have to admit, this one was a lot more work than I thought. Sometimes that happens and you have to pivot and work with the piece. I still think it was absolutely worth it. It's a beautiful piece of history. And with that being said, let's take a look to see what that little piece of history looks like now. It is absolutely stunning. This piece was a labor of love, to say the least. I spent 4 days stripping and sanding and stripping and sanding and picking at the little details, scraping, and it was a lot of work. I'm going to lovingly nickname this piece My Little Headache, or probably Big Headache. But all in all, I don't regret picking this up. It was absolutely worth it, and it is a complete 180 than what I started with. It's beautiful in my opinion, and I really hope that someone gets to take this home and cherish it. Leave me a comment down below. Did you like this piece? Would you have painted it or put all that work in to keep it that raw wood look? Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to like, subscribe, and check out my other videos.